how do you assess Avery Johnson's play last year? And then looking ahead, what's the next step for him to take to maximize his potential and reach his ceiling?
Lots of good and still lots of steps to take, Cole. I know some of the records he's broke. I'm happy for him. I find great pleasure and joy in those too. I mean, those are real things. There's been a lot of good quarterbacks come through this program. And for him to break some says something about the level of success he had. 9 wins is a good start.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Hello and welcome into another edition of Threema. I'm John Kurtz, joined by Cole Manbeck. No Derek Young today, but a very special guest. We were pleased to have new K-State offensive coordinator Matt Wells with us on the show. Very much looking forward to this conversation. And hey, that calls for a toast. Of course, it's brought to you by our good friends at Holiday Distillery. Whether it's their Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbon or 360 vodka, they've got the hookup for you either way. Great K-State folks who support us here on the show, so make sure you support them and get stocked up for, maybe spring, hanging out outside. Great day today. Just chill out on the porch with some Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbon. Appreciate you making time for us here, Coach Wells, today. How has this transition been over the last couple of weeks, getting used to, we just talking about a new office, so I know that's been a part of it, but just the new gig now moving over to being the offensive coordinator?
Pretty smooth, to be honest with you. Thankful for the opportunity. Also recognize that when an organization or a program has success, it gives guys opportunities, and certainly what a great opportunity for Connor. And we're all happy for him. That's awesome. And it's created an opportunity for me, and then Brian LePack as well, and then some kind of promotions for some of our younger coaches and analysts and support guys, and again they've earned it as well. And so pretty smooth, because already in the office, already know a lot of the you know the guys in the offensive staff room, so you know personalities. You already know the scheme and the players. So I think familiarity with all of those is certainly a benefit for a promotion in-house for me versus a guy coming from outside to in, like I was last year, and you having to kind of learn really, really fast everything. And this is actually a very similar transition to a previous offensive coordinator job I've had before. So I can feel a lot of the similarities in it.
Yeah, and speaking of that, last year being co-offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, how much different is the role as being now the sole offensive coordinator from what the breakdown of responsibility was like last year?
Yeah, a little bit bigger responsibility in the fact that you're not just the idea guy, you're actually the last answer. You're making the final decision, which certainly Connor did in everything last year. A lot of the things that we do during the week is, we scheme and we game plan. So sometimes a lot of those calls are set calls that we make as a staff, but ultimately you have to have the final say on game day. And you have to have the final say in the middle of the week right now in the off season, whether it's recruiting evaluations, it's scheme changes. It's, do we want to change the way we call this? Okay, well, are we changing just to change? Is there a reason why? Is it better for the kids? Are we going to process faster? If I ask probably more questions, and then try to lead. And again, this is not a dictatorship in that room. We do it as a team. I love the team of guys in that offensive staff room. They're smart, and they're well versed in what we do. So sometimes it's just being the organizer and the final say, and I recognize that.
Coach, what is your ultimate vision for the offense as you look ahead to 2025, knowing it's still 7 months out, but curious what your vision is for this team and this offense?
Yeah, Cole, I try to go fast forward to the end of the year. What do I want to say about our offense? What do I want people to say about us, hopefully, which is what they see and what they can evaluate. I want it to be fast. I want it to be physical. I want it to be exciting for the fans. I truly think, and I've said it before, I think you throw the ball to score, and I think you run the ball to win. I'm a firm believer in that. Even though I have a quarterback background, you have to run the ball in the month of November to win games down the stretch, to win a championship game. You have to stop the run on defense, and you have to run the ball on offense to sustain a toughness factor. I think it goes for your team. I think that fits K-State. I think it fits our culture on both sides of the ball, front seven on both sides. But we've got playmakers, and my job is to get it into their hands, starting with Avery. We've got some more weapons, as y'all know, on the outside, so that's been fun. We have a really talented tight end room that's all back. Plus, we got one coming. That's going to be fun to play, watch him play. And then we got a different running back room. Losing DJ is tough. Guy's going to get his name drafted. He's going to get his name called. Excited to watch him this weekend in the combine, but equally as excited to see Joe in the growth of Joe. And I think we got a little preview of that in the bowl game. And then number 3, he's as an exciting player as there is in this league, whether it's catching balls out of the backfield. He's running between the tackles. He's tough enough to do that. I mean, Dylan's kind of getting big. Y'all be surprised if you saw him right now. He's putting good time in. And then Gabe. What can Gabe Irvin do? Maybe even a Devon Rice, a young guy. What are those guys can do? What are their strengths? That's my job, is to try to help figure out those strengths quicker, sooner than later, and then try to help feed them the football in ways that they feel comfortable. And so it's a balancing act, not so much run pass. There may be games where we throw it more. There may be games where we run it more, but balance, in my mind, is I've got to not just get Jace the ball, but I've got to find ways to get the X's and the Z's the ball and these running backs some touches. So I'm giving you a big picture. I've kind of started with the end. I want us to be physical. I want to play with some pace. We're not going to go Utah State, Texas Tech, as fast as we humanly can. I'm not doing that. That's not us. That's not how we're built. We have tight ends here. We're going to use these tight ends. That's the way this offense has been built. So lots of things like that. We may look a little different in the run game. And to be real with you, we look different this year in the run game than K-State did in 23, which I've watched all of that tape, getting in here. So what do your players do well? What does Dylan and Joe and Gabe run really well? And let's do that. We have a little mix. We've lose some guys on the O-line, just like we did the year before. What schemes do we run better? And try to major in those and try to minimize others. I think those are all jobs of coordinating an offense. It's not just the final play call.
You hit, I think, on a couple things we were going to hit on, Coach. So great summary.
All right. Here we go. No, that follow up. Here we go. What else?
But I am curious. So when I did look at your Utah State, Texas Tech days, you ran between 65 to as many as 79 plays per game. And last year you guys were at 66 plays per game. Colin Klein, when he was here, was right around 74 that prior year in 2023. Is there a set number that you like to look for?
I've got those numbers right here too. All right. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that, because we need to run more than 66 plays a game. We need to. We got to get more plays off. A few things for that. Number one, the rules have changed. Okay, the college football rules. This isn't 2018 when we can run 79, 80 snaps a game. The rules are different. The clock keeps running, right? Okay, so that's one thing. Last year was interesting. When you compare last year to the year before, I think one of the answers, not all of them, but I think one of the answers to having less plays is we turned the ball over on offense a few more times. That's us. We didn't create as many turnovers on defense, okay? And so now you're getting more opportunities on offense. I think there were at times on offense, the defense forced us to play more plays and longer drive series. Well, what happens? Clock keeps running. If your defense gives up a longer drive, what happens? Clock keeps running. So we had several games, if you remember, where at the end of the first quarter, going into the second quarter, we had one drive. One time we had 2 drives. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's looking a little bit more NFL game-ish with the number of plays. We need to get 66 plays up. That's not just about all going faster, okay? Quit turning the ball over on offense, okay? That's what we can control. Maybe be a little bit more explosive in some plays, score quicker. from further, okay? And maybe that gives you an extra series, and an extra series is 4 or 5 plays. And if you average that over the course of, the season plus, then you're into the lower 70s, right? So certainly, you'd like to get that number up.
Great point about the way the game is changing. I was reading the piece that D. Scott Fritcham wrote about you the other day, and I was really fascinated to hear you talk about calling plays as like taking educated guesses with a well thought out, calculated, aggressive approach. And I'm fascinated by what that is like. Like, can you elaborate on that? What is that kind of dueling warfare like between an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator when you are the play caller?
Yeah, that's exactly. I like how you said that's dueling warfare. You may trademark that. That's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's, sitting in here during the week and you're watching all this tape, and okay, this is his MO right now in this formation, or this down and distance situation, or this yard line area in the field. Okay, this has been his MO against teams like us, or the last 4 weeks. Guess what? He also should know that tendency about himself. Okay. My grandpa told me once, the beginning of wisdom is knowing thyself. So you have to know yourself. So we have to do a really good job of us self-scouting ourselves and knowing who we are. I've also, got taught this when I was a young coach at the Naval Academy when we were running the triple option. Kenny Niumatalolo told me and taught me, when you're really good at what you do, you're going to have some tendencies. If you had no tendencies at all and nobody knows what you're going to do, you're probably not that good, because you're doing everything and you're not getting great at anything. Now, I would say that the fan base, and sometimes if they guess your call and you don't do it, execute very well, we knew that was coming. Okay. Well, hopefully that's not very often. So I think you got to know yourself. You're knowing the defensive coordinator, but you're also thinking the dual part of that comment, John, is, all right, is he going to stick with what he's doing, or is he going to go against what he's doing because he knows himself? He knows I've already countered it. And then sometimes it's like, you know what? I'm going to throw it to that receiver because my guy's better than his guy, and I need to get my guy in a really good position. I don't care what he does. If he double covers it, the rules are built in. Avery knows where to go with the ball. You have that too. So I think you're always in a constant think game chess match during the week leading up to the game. And then certainly you have a 3.5 hour headache up in the press box of that game that you're playing back and forth. And then, at some point in the third quarter, it's, this guy's changed or he hasn't changed. And so how do you call the last 3 series of the game?
All right, we have to tell you about our good friends at Home Field Apparel. As always, Cole, rocking. Yes, rocking. You heard it. We said it. We have to say it. We say it. Rocking the pullover today. It's very nice. I know, Cole, your modeling skills maybe could use a little bit of work there, but
what am I not supposed to like lift it up like that? Or
no, I mean, I think it was fine. I felt like there could have been a little more pizzazz to that, but I don't know. See, Nick says turn, pivot. Yeah, something like that. But okay, yeah. Now we're doing Home Field Apparel proud. HomeFieldApparel.com. You can get 50 plus K-State designs there. You can get 100 plus other schools, which means you can be Derek Young and have a different one for any possible scenario that comes up throughout the college football and basketball season. So we'll even give you 15% off your first order. It's promo code 3MA24, promo code 3MA24 for 15% off your first order at HomeFieldApparel.com.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Well, you bring up being in the booth. I guess one, is that the plan? And then two, like how different is it being on the field as an offensive coordinator versus being in the booth, especially now that you have the helmet communication piece of this introduced into the game?
Helmet communication makes it easier, whether you're up or down, to stay consistent for Avery. Okay, so that piece that's going to be the same for him. Okay. Being down gives you a better feel for your players. The challenges, especially if it's a challenge or a struggle a little bit, in either frustration or, they're good and they're confident in what you're doing. The interaction, Captain Obvious with the quarterback after every play, just face to face, which I wouldn't have traded anything for last year with that being Avery's first year of starting. Versus upstairs, it's a little calmer environment, and you can lay your call sheets out and maybe have it even a couple sets down there and to be able to see the game a little bit broader. It's hard to see on the sidelines. It's not a very good view, to be honest with you, and you try to get in certain spots to see better on the field, but quite frankly, you don't see very well on the field, and you can see a lot better up top.
So do you plan on being up top then this year?
I haven't made it final yet, but I would probably say I'm leaning towards that.
Got it.
This next part's kind of a two-part question, Coach, and we'll make this our top storyline of the show, brought to you by our friends from Elanco Premier Home Improvement Company, based out of Kansas City, owned and operated by tremendous K-Staters. But, Coach, I'm curious, how do you assess Avery Johnson's play last year? And then looking ahead, what's the next step for him to take to maximize his potential and reach his ceiling?
Lots of good and still lots of steps to take, Cole. I know some of the records he's broke. I'm happy for him. I find great pleasure and joy in those too. I mean, those are real things. There's been a lot of good quarterbacks come through this program, and for him to break some says something about the level of success he had. 9 wins is a good start. Man, some of those games still eat at us when we see them on cut-ups, and especially that one in Houston. Hard to get past. Still, we're in the middle of February. I'm not past it yet. None of us are, because we knew the implications, and we didn't play very good. But for Avery, getting back to Avery, I just think there's more growth. We've dissected every one of his incompletions, the why behind it. He's doing a great job. I mean, he takes an iPad full of notes. He's about to compile all these thoughts, and we're gonna narrow it down. Some of them are bad footwork, and bad footwork means bad coaching. That's me. I got to do a better job. Was his read not right? Most of the time it was. How about his eyes? Sometimes we just dropped the ball. Sometimes we just got covered. Sometimes we gave up some pressure. There's a lot of reasons why. We've got a category that's just throwaways. Hey, good job. Move on to the next play. A couple of those throwaways, we skipped the first receiver in a progression read, and he was open, and he's like, I don't even have a throwaway if I take the 5-yard completion at 2nd and 5. Those are growth. So I think we're going to grow from some of those, Cole. And then I think the next step is what I've already started to witness over the last month is a step in leadership, and it's a leadership role as he grows and matures. The team becomes more his team. He owns the car now. It's not a rental car anymore. And that was my analogy I gave him, when he was coming in off the bench behind Will. And last year it was his team as well. But I think just another step in growth and maturity. And I've been so proud of him. I mean, he's gaining weight. He's just under 200 pounds. Hopefully we can keep that increasing, and he can sustain it. But proud of him because and I like saying this because it's him. He's the one writing this chapter. I'm the one reading it right now to you guys. And he is humble. He doesn't think he's arrived. He is 100% still coachable as he was last January. And he's got a chip on his shoulder and a hunger. He wants to be great. And what I love is he's willing to put the time physically to do the unrequired and do the extra. And he's willing to put the time in this office or in the meeting rooms extra in the offseason to continue his growth and continue his learning. I'm proud of him for that. More to go, though.
I want to ask you about some of the guys he's going to be throwing to. We all know how good Jace Brown is, but Jaron Bradley, a guy you guys bring in from the portal that you're well-versed on, Coach. I mean, you brought him to Texas Tech, recruited him there, coached him for a season. How do you kind of assess the impact Jaron Bradley could have and getting back on track in his career? You have a familiarity there. And then also Tibbs and Medford that you guys brought in the portal, Davis, the JUCO kid, et cetera. How do you kind of assess the wide receiver room?
Yeah, first of all, when you have your leading receiver back, that's always a plus. Avery and Jace have a great connection. Jace has got room for growth. Jace knows that. And what I love about Jace is this dude's hungry. And this dude continues to grow. He's gained weight, and he's gotten stronger in the weight room. I love the talent that Jace has being a combo guy. He can play outside. He can play inside. He's very versatile. Jace is really smart. Jace is one of our smarter guys on the offensive side of the ball at any position. He's really smart. He picks things up real well, which allows you to move him around and do some different concepts. To answer the other part of that question directly, all four guys, I'm excited about all four guys. I've got a lot of knowledge about JB. I've known that kid since he was 16 years old. Recruit him, kind of had a hand in personally recruiting him as a head coach to Tech. And, that's a guy that started out in the Big 12 and had 2 really good years. And then, for whatever reason, he was in the portal again. And I think you have a very hungry, driven guy that has 1 year left. And I think he knows that. We know that. JB, I don't know if JB ever has a bad day. He's always got a smile on his face. He's a football junkie. He loves ball. He's 6'5", he's 222. He's a big target, better speed than you think, covers ground, physical. I love Tibbs. Tibbs had a really good year for Purdue, made really good plays in the Big Ten, will be game ready, and provides, again, another 6'3" wideout. Medford started at TCU, was at New Mexico. He's got some deep ball threat. He's a very competitive catch guy with the ball in the air, does a really good job of high pointing it. And JD's a young guy from Trinity Valley that I think JD, we're going to start him at outside, and so he'll be an outside guy. Eventually, I think he could probably be a combo guy. But JD's a guy that he's already gained some weight and gained some pounds. Gained some pounds. Where am I from? Oklahoma. Gained some weight. My bad. But these spring's important for those guys. And so all four of them, I'm excited about all four of them. Queese is a young guy that was in a backup role last year, continues to get big and strong. He's a powerful wideout. Again, another outside guy that could play X or Z. But those are some guys that when you talk about, you asked me directly about the 4 incoming guys, they'll all play a role. And my guess is they'll all be on the field in some sort of role, and then they'll earn bigger roles.
Do you foresee a similar situation there on the offensive line where obviously you guys hit the portal pretty hard there? George Fitzpatrick, Brandon Snee, Amos Talele, some transfers that are coming in and with some open spots. They had that group going through some transition from last year.
Yeah, all 3 of those need to be, in our top, 6 or 7. Didn't bring them in to stand on the sidelines next to me. I know that. And so those are guys that, they've been working hard. They're hungry. They're excited to be here. I'm glad all 3 of them are here. We've got some returning guys that have played in games, especially with Sam and TP. So those guys give me good comfort. Liney's a guy that can play multiple spots. And then we have some young guys that need to have a really good spring and summer and some growth. And I could name 4 or 5 of these young guys that got to get Pastore back healthy, hopefully. So a lot of guys up front. And, don't forget, we replaced 4 starters last year on the O-line. And those guys gelled together and came together. And I'm confident that Coach LePack, Coach Little, Coach Farah, those guys can all get those guys to gel together by August, and we'll have a good fall up front.
Yeah, how confident are you in Coach LePack? And just take us into like the mind of Coach LePack. Like what is he like for those of us that don't know him too well?
He's well, first of all, you guys know he's got a law degree. He's the smartest guy in the building. He's probably got pretty good job security because he gives everybody free law advice, especially the head coach. He was board certified in Oklahoma at some point. He reminds us that. So Esquire is really smart. He thinks he's always kind of thinking a step or 2 ahead. And I'm like, hey, Brian, slow down, man. Like, solve the problem right now. But that's the way his mind works. Really smart. He cares. He's very detail oriented. I think this will be a very natural position because he played O-line and he's coached O-line before. He's GA'd under some good guys and then had the O-line at one stop previous. And so our guys have done a good job of embracing him and his knowledge, and he'll do a good job.
Coach, I wanted to circle back. You talked about Dylan Edwards a little bit earlier, and I'm just curious how you see his skill set best translating. In the bowl game, it felt like you guys made a point of emphasis to get him the ball in the passing game, maybe a little bit more there. Like, how do you foresee him in the passing game as a receiving type running back as well and getting him split out more?
Yeah, Cole, it was a kind of we kind of mandated ourselves to get him involved more in the passing game, and we missed him. We missed him 2 times down both sidelines. Ave, sorry that y'all can edit that out, but I'm not mad or anything, but we did target him and we still missed him a couple times. But he's got good skill set to be able to go vertical. He can wiggle and run option routes. He's better in the tackles than you think. I don't think you're going to pound that guy between the tackles like a DJ Giddens, but he certainly can run between the tackles to keep you honest, whether it's inside zone or it's any gap schemes. And then he's good with the touch on the perimeter. So just really good in the ball in his hands. And Dylan is another guy I mentioned about Jace being so smart. Dylan's really smart. Dylan got here in June and picked things up and picked up multiple positions from the slot receiver to the running, but to actually both running back spots and did a really nice job throughout the year of when we put different stuff on his plate that he handled it. Dylan can handle a lot. Dylan, he's a smart player.
We'll get you out of here soon, Coach. I'm also curious. So we saw the impact Taquan Roberson had in the Colorado game last year, and having a guy that could step in a pinch in a situation like that. How do you kind of feel about the rest of the quarterback room, the Blake Barnetts, the Jacob Knuths, the Dylan Duff, the true freshman quarterback? How do you feel about the overall talent level of the room?
You just mentioned that in the Colorado game. I still think, and I'm proud to say it as a quarterback coach, one of the best series of the year. I mean, the two balls he completed because of the way the game was going and maybe the uncertainty if Avery was coming back, and it was getting to be a tense moment. He stepped up and he made plays, and that's what you have to do as a backup quarterback. You've got to be able to take all these mental reps with minimal physical reps and be ready when called upon. And you do not know when that moment's coming. You don't know if it's play 2. You don't know if it's game 2. You don't know when it is. Maybe it's 2 plays to go in the game and you have to come off the bench cold. You do not know when that is. And so to be ready, to be called upon at moment's notice is very tough. It's mentally challenging. I tell those backup quarterbacks, when you're a backup quarterback, you and the quarterback coach or the play caller, you ought to have a splitting headache 4 hours after kickoff, because that's how dialed in and emotionally invested you were in the game on every single call. And then if you don't play, you don't play. But you have got to go through the game like that. And I strained those guys to that point. Taquan had a great game. Moving forward between Jacob, Blake, Dylan, Duff, those guys are going to get a lot of reps this spring. I'm going to see what Duff can do. Really need to see what Blake can do. Those are guys that had, they're state champions. Those 2 guys are winners. They've won the big game. Duff has won the football championship. Duff won the basketball championship. So has Blake. Those guys are state champions. Those guys are players of the year in their states. Man, I put a lot of stock in that. I'm excited to see that competition and see how they go. But then that'll continue to go through the summer. So y'all don't try to get me pinned down. You won't have an answer coming out of spring ball. This thing will go all the way into August. Whenever it's done, or maybe it goes throughout some of the season. And in a way, Knuth and Taquan were kind of like that during September. Y'all just didn't know that. And there were reps being given behind the scenes with the 2s and which ones were kind of taken. And then Taquan kind of took it over about late maybe September, early October, whenever that was. But need to have a good battle. Iron sharpens iron. They both, all those guys, they first of all, it's a good room and they support each other, but I need them to be really competitive when they get their reps because it'll be limited.
Yeah. Well, we talked a lot about the transition on the coaching staff. One guy we have not talked about yet is Luke Wells, who's coming in to coach the tight ends. Obviously, you're very familiar with him. What can you tell us about what he's going to bring to the table there with a pretty loaded room?
It is a loaded room, and we've been together for 9 years, the whole time at Utah State and at Texas Tech. And what I can say about Luke is he'll bring an energy, he'll bring a passion, He is very detail oriented. He is inheriting a room that Brian has done not a good job, but a great job, which has earned Brian a promotion to the offensive line job. And so Brian has done a really good job in that room, and credit to those players. Luke's walking into a cool situation because every one of them are coming back, and there's a really good one coming in. And he's going to have to balance that. He'll do a good job, but those guys are mature. They're going to have roles. I mean, you lead the nation in touchdown catches last year for tight ends, and 4 of them had a role in that, which is way cool. So really good room. He'll be a really good recruiter for us. He's passionate about recruiting. He relates well to players and their families and high school coaches. And so I do know that the recruiting part for him is very natural. Told that to Coach Kleiman. Coach Kleiman knew that from a few years ago when he was a candidate here as well. And so, I know that, man, this dude, he's a ball coach. He loves coach. I think he's born to coach. He started out as a student assistant at Oklahoma and has earned his way. This will be his 3rd Big 12 school. And I think those guys are lucky to have him. But I also think he would tell you that he's lucky to be at K-State.
Yeah. Well, hey, last thing real quick. I mean, I know in some ways this is an impossible question to answer right now, but
Why are you asking it?
I feel like I have to on behalf of the fans. Like, is it possible for Lincoln Cure to find a way to get him involved as a freshman?
Absolutely. Yeah. He'll have to earn it. And, he is already starting to put in time. I'll just leave it at that. And it's important to Lincoln. He will have to absolutely earn it. The opportunity to earn it will absolutely be there as well.
Love it. Hey, Coach, appreciate you taking so much time for us. Best of luck getting rolling as you head into spring ball, and we look forward to seeing what the finished product looks like Saturdays this fall.
Thanks, Cole. Thanks, John. Appreciate y'all having me on.